Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a very interesting show today, and I got some good news, I suppose, to start off with. Kamala Harris, yes, Kamala Harris, of the Biden-Harris administration, we'll make sure we give them just due like they officially want. She's going to save us all. If you think there is a crisis at the border, we're going to send, Joe Biden is going to send his version, I guess, of a superhero, Kamala Harris, to take charge of the southern border. Don't you feel better already? Admit it. I mean, I know you do. And then another superhero in the Senate, Chucky Schumer, is essentially saying that the Constitution is kind of outdated and that those pesky little things like states' rights are a direct threat to our modern democracy. And we'll get into that. And he doesn't want to, doesn't want the progressive takeover of America to go unabated. I mean, I guess, or to go unabated, I guess is what he wants. But before we get any further, I got to talk about our sponsors. Big Daddy Unlimited, otherwise known as BDU, is our primary sponsor, and we greatly appreciate their sponsoring the show. We come to you live Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock Eastern, right here at Big Daddy Unlimited Studios. Look above the video, no matter when or where you're watching it, and you will see various links, one of which will take you to Big Daddy Unlimited, your Second Amendment headquarters. And I say that because not only do they defend your Second Amendment rights on a daily basis, but you can get guns and ammunition at factory direct pricing delivered directly to your door, including over 100,000 other items like protective gear, swag, survival gear, anything that remotely has to do with the Second Amendment. You will find it at factory direct pricing from Big Daddy Unlimited. Then we have patriotthreads.org, apparel with a purpose. They are a total fulfillment center. I was rocking one of their shirts yesterday. They make patriotic apparel, primarily t-shirts, and they help groups that want to do charity events. For instance, if you want to have a motorcycle club ride and sponsor a patriotic charity, say like Wounded Warriors, patriotthreads.org can produce a shirt for your event and help you with the profits division to divide it up to the charity of your choice and all that. So check them out. But remember, when you do, to use the promo code, the initials of our show, John Martin Talks, so JMT, that's your promo code, JMT, for 20% off. Check it out. Recoil TV, we're glad to be partnered with Recoil TV. Check them out. They have their own YouTube channel. Of course, we have one as well. Spell it all the way out, John Martin Talks. But Recoil TV, we have a channel within their channel where they archive our show on a daily basis. And Recoil TV is also all about the Second Amendment with videos showing you how to use the latest products, what's coming out, news and information you need to help make your decisions about what to do with your Second Amendment rights. All of that you can see on Recoil TV. All right, let's get into the show here. We have an article we're using as a template from CNBC. A little bit liberal, I would imagine. Vice President Harris will oversee effort to resolve problems at the U.S.-Mexico border. Now, she doesn't bring any baggage like this little cartoon shows, does she? I mean, Kamala, man. What qualifies her to be basically the border czar? I mean, I don't know. Do you? Please tell me on Facebook. And I've been a little lax in getting caught up on Facebook, but I'm going to get caught up on all your comments, I promise. So chime in on Facebook, and we will get to you as soon as possible. President Joe Biden, whose administration is grappling, I guess that's a good word for it, with overcrowding and migrant. Let me just put it this way. You know what's really bothering the Biden-Harris administration right now? Is they're getting, believe it or not, coverage from the mainstream media that they don't want. It's not the crisis at the border is not because people by the hundreds of thousands are trying to bum rush our border. That's not the crisis for the Biden administration. That's part of the plan. The crisis, if there is one for them, is you actually know about it, or you should know about it, and you might have to watch shows like us, No Mic to It, to find out. But this is going according to plan, except for the fact that the secret is out. That's the only thing that really troubles the Biden-Harris administration. But they're grappling with overcrowding at migrant facilities on the southern border. Tasked Vice President, so Mr. Biden, tasked Kamala Harris on Wednesday with leading efforts to coordinate with Mexico, the Central American nations of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, also known as the Triad or Triangle, I guess, down there. The assignment marks Harris's first major policy role since she was sworn in January. So they're getting some work out of Kamala Harris. Now, she was asked Monday, I believe it was, in Jacksonville, Florida, of all places, about the border and whether or not it was a crisis and whether or not she was going to go down there to the border. Now, unless Biden just sprung this on her Wednesday, she had to have known that she was in consideration for this, right? And this was her response this week in Florida when asked about whether or not she was going to go to the border. Check it out.
Do you have plans to visit the border?
Not today. But I have before, and I'm sure I will again. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you on a side note. What is it, and I was talking to my producer about this a few minutes ago, what is it with Kamala Harris and that cackle, man? I mean, does it not kind of creep you out a bit? They ask her a question. It doesn't matter. I mean, they could ask you a question. You can say, did you hear that your cousin just died? She go, no, I didn't. I mean, what is her cackle? What is that all about, man? I mean, people are literally dying at the border, bringing in disease across the border. Children are suffering at the border. And she's now cackling Kamala. I guess that was, maybe we should call her Cackling Kamala. Maybe that'd be a nickname. But anyway, I don't get it. I don't get it. Maybe you could explain it to me. The president, that is Joe Biden, God help us, he said, I can think of nobody who is better qualified to do this, being basically the border czar. When she speaks, talking about Kamala now, when she speaks for me. Doesn't have to check with me. Well, that's good to know. I mean, wow, think about that. When she speaks for Joe Biden and doesn't even have to check with him. So she can say whatever she wants and Biden approves it. Because let me tell you, here's the deal. I'll quote Biden. Here's the deal. Biden doesn't have an agenda. All of y'all who are hammering the Biden agenda, it's not the Biden agenda. It's the progressive leftists that are taking over this country's agenda. Biden's already accomplished his entire agenda. He's president. That was all he ever wanted to be, man. For 50 years, basically, all he's ever wanted to do is be president. Now that he's president, his greatest wish, I guess, is to be able to walk up the stairs of Air Force One without falling down. But he doesn't know about he doesn't care about what's happening. Oh, just put old Kamala out there. He's fine with that, man. But let me just ask you this. If you really want to solve the issues at the border, he says he can think of no one better than Kamala Harris. Well, I can think of at least 2 or 3 other people, including just randomly picking somebody off my Facebook audience. You'd be better suited than Kamala Harris, that's for sure. But I can think of one person who would be ideally suited to be the czar of our border. How about, instead of cackling Kamala, how about appointing someone who has a proven track record? How about Donald J. Trump? Why don't we put him down there? But, Biden, he says that when she speaks for me. Well, Kamala has known about this for quite some time. I mean, even going back to before they actually took office, Kamala was basically telling you, well, let's let her speak in her own words, and then you tell me what you think it means. Check it out.
Need to make sure you have a president in the White House who actually sees you, who understands your needs, who understands the dignity of your work, and who has your back. A Harris administration together with Joe Biden as the President of the United States, the Biden-Harris administration will have provide access to $100 billion in low-interest loans and investments for minority business
That's
owners.
good enough. I like how think about that. She's literally saying a Harris along with Biden. So her running the show along with, oh, by the way, the guy that you guys elected, the basement dweller Biden. Yeah, old Pinocchio Joe. Yeah, I'll bring him along. He can tag along with me. I mean, it's just crazy. That's what I tell you. You just have to listen to these progressives. They'll tell you what they really believe. And she's telling you, and that wasn't even really a gaffe if you go back and listen to it. She's actually just very calmly saying a Harris Biden ticket and, me along with old Joe, we're going to get the job done, whatever that is. And their agenda, I told you Joe's agenda was just being president. But make no mistake, the agenda of Kamala Harris and the people pulling her strings, which really, believe it or not, is probably not Bernie Sanders, like a lot of us feared in Ocasio-Cortez. It's actually a third Obama term is what it appears to be. He's actually pulling the strings. And Biden, and that they admitted that he talks to Obama literally on a daily basis, plus essentially Biden's administration, most of his appointees and everything and underlings that work at the White House themselves are all Obama people. There's several hundred there, so it's pretty straightforward. But Kamala just admits that, hey, I'm basically the president here. I'm calling the shots. Actually, it's probably Mr. Obama that is calling the shots. The vice president will work to stem the flow of people coming to the border, thousands of whom are unaccompanied children. And then, of course, they blame Trump for all this, right? Now, I'm going to play you two back-to-back pretty quick video snippets and a couple of things out. This is from the 2020 primary campaign of the Democratic Party debates when they had basically 100 people running. But in both of these videos, I guess it doesn't matter whether it's Biden-Harris or Harris-Biden because they're on the stage both times. And they both agree to the same basic principles about the border and what should be done with illegal immigrants. And you watch these, and then we'll come back. I'll play the first one, we'll talk about it, and we'll play the second one really quickly. But you tell me, is it not open season in coming to the border? I mean, these people down in South America, they got smartphones and everything else. They knew what was going to happen. This has been in the works for a long time. So let's play the first one. Check it out.
The stage last night on the topic of decriminalization of the border. If you'd be so kind, raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a crime to cross the border without documentation. Can we keep the hands up so we could see them?
Let's remember, that's not just a theoretical exercise.
That's good enough. We don't need to hear from the transportation secretary there at old Butt Edge, man. We don't hear much from old Butt Get lately, man. I wonder what he's up to. He's probably trying to wait till they get that 3 trillion, 4 trillion, something like that dollars. Then he'll get crazy, man. He'll bend over backwards to get the job done, I suppose. But they play in the open border. In that clip, you saw Kamala Harris and Joe Biden flip-flop, whichever one you want. And they both said they were for an open border. In other words, to make it where it is not illegal to just walk back and forth across our border. No country really in the world is that true. Did you know that? I mean, name me a country. There may be. I mean, I know the EU and everything else has some things that people can go across, but they're checkpoints. They don't just get to walk across a field or something. You can't have a country with totally open borders. It just won't. It won't exist at some point, which is probably what they want. So you combine that. So here you have the leaders, the new czar of the southern border, and Joe Biden actually saying that they are for totally open borders. All right, you combine that, and this is another segment of a Democratic debate. Once again, you got Kamala and Joe both on the stage, and they're asked about whether they would, what kind of benefits they would offer to people who came here illegally. Check it out.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants. Okay.
Oh, Joe Biden, he's like the last one there. He's trying to figure out what's going on there. But their hands all shot up, both Kamala and Mr. Biden, that said that they are for giving free health care, was what the question was about, to people coming here illegally. So, and that's something that they don't even offer to American citizens, but they're offering it to illegal immigrants. So let me ask you, you say as one of your campaign promises, both the president, the vice president, the czar now of the southern border, that you're for decriminalize, you're for a totally open border, which is what that means. And you're for giving away free stuff like health care during the time of a pandemic. And you're telling me that this is not what I would call a manufactured crisis? You remember they used to accuse Trump of trying to manufacture a crisis to build a wall? Well, if you want to know the very definition of a manufactured crisis, and I'm not saying it's not a crisis, but clearly the crisis at the border was been manufactured and planned all along by the Democrats, the progressives, and they all were for it in those two clips I just played you. And so I'll tell you flat out, in case you're new to the show, you haven't heard this, but of course, if I say it, it bears repeating. My main political goal, and it may not be fair, I'm just being straightforward with you. My main political goal right now, and I judge everything, whether you're running for dog catcher all the way up to the White House, my main political goal is to stop the progressive takeover of this country. Period. That's it. That's what I'm trying to do. Stop the progressive takeover of this country politically. Now, I battle ignorance and apathy on a daily basis, but my primary goal right now is just that. And I can tell you that the crew we got up there now, they don't share that goal with me, that's for sure. But the recent increase in migrants, illegal immigrants, I'm going to say it like it is, has quickly overwhelmed Border Patrol stations and processing facilities, which are grappling with backlogs and overcrowding. This is all planned. Now, keep in mind, I'm about to play an ABC News video. It's about a minute and a half long. If you haven't seen it, I would say it's shocking. It's more telling than shocking because I'm not surprised. But this is ABC. I want you to listen and think about the two videos we just played where you had Kamala and Joe for open borders and basically just open welfare, medical care to anyone that can get here. Listen to this ABC report. Like I said it earlier in the show, this is what troubles the Biden administration, that a network like ABC would even do a report like this. So I give them some credit. But as you're listening to this, it talks about the problems at the border. Towards the very end of the video, an ABC correspondent interviews a guy from Brazil that's brought his whole family up here. Keep in mind that Brazil now has one of the deadly variations of the COVID virus, and we're not even testing these people. And if we're testing them, they turn positive, we're just letting them go anyway. But listen to what this gentleman says about why he came at this time. He says violence is the number one motivator, but why did he decide to make the move from Brazil, which is a relatively prosperous country, certainly by South American standards? Why did he come to the United States? Check it out.
This significant surge coming after President Biden ended Donald Trump's so-called Remain in Mexico policy, requiring asylum seekers to wait there for their court proceedings. Since then, many of those tent cities along the Mexican border have emptied out as people start streaming in. We were there when a bus of 56 asylum seekers arrived at Casa Alitas, a Catholic charity shelter in Tucson. Men, pregnant women, and children stepping off the bus with only what they could carry. This father, who asked that we not show his face, traveled to Mexico from Brazil with his wife and 3 young kids before crossing the border. Would you have tried to do this when Donald Trump was president?
Definitely not. Definitely. We had the chance, the same violence that is going on today was there last year. We used to watch the news, and I definitely won't do this.
So did you come here because Joe Biden was elected president?
Basically. The main thing was the violence in my country. And the second thing, I think, was Joe Biden.
I mean, the man is telling you the truth right there. Do you really have to hear anything else? And as I've said many times before, I don't necessarily blame that gentleman for bringing his family here. If I was caught up in the violence and I felt my children were going to potentially be killed by these gangs, which are getting crazy all over South America, and Brazil is seeing a huge uptick in it, and they're experiencing COVID deaths escalating while ours are going down. I don't blame these people for coming here. I don't blame them at all. I don't think that we should just have them just open arms coming here. I don't believe in an open border and welfare policy, but do I blame them? No. But I do believe that right out of his mouth, he's telling you, he literally said that if Donald Trump was still president, he wouldn't be making the trip. I mean, snowflakes, what more do you need to melt you than that? Donald Trump was still our president. This gentleman said he wouldn't be coming here. But he's coming here because the violence, that's the motivation. But he knows that Joe Biden, I mean, like I say, this is not a crisis in the sense that I agree with the administration in the sense that it's a manufactured crisis, like they tried to accuse Donald Trump. That doesn't mean it's not a real crisis, but they planned this all along. Harris this week called the situation at the border, now this is your new border czar basically, a huge problem. A huge problem. Yeah, ever since you stopped the Donald Trump policy, you didn't have to keep Donald Trump in the White House. I mean, obviously you guys wanted to get him out. I mean, you remember when Mitch McConnell was blasted for saying that when Obama first got elected, he wanted to make him a one-term president? He was just blasted, racist, everything else. But the Democrats didn't even want Donald Trump to even serve a term. They started trying to impeach the dude literally 20 minutes after he was sworn in. There was a Washington Post article saying this now's the time to impeach Donald Trump. I think it was 19 minutes after he was sworn in. So they didn't even want him to be a one-term president. But just because you don't like Donald Trump doesn't mean you shouldn't do away with it, that you should do away with his policies that were working. And the Biden administration has in effect admitted that because they just announced a couple of days ago that they're going to return to the stay in Mexico policy, and they're trying to negotiate, as the article said earlier, with Guatemala, Honduras, and some other countries, basically the same thing that Donald Trump was doing. Pretty soon they'll be wanting to build a wall, which the Democrats were always for the wall before Donald Trump anyway. But the surge, this is what Biden said, the surge we're dealing with now started with the last administration. Really. You just heard the dude say he wouldn't even attempted to come here if Donald Trump was president. But Biden said, but it's our responsibility to deal with it humanely and to stop what's happening. This increase has been consequential. Oh, Biden likes to tell these big words, man. Oh, by the way, have you set your clocks? I was asking my producer this earlier this morning. I said, have you got your clock set? He goes, clock set for what? Because today is historic, right? I think it's at 1:15 or maybe it's 1:17, something like that. But a little after 1 o'clock today, Joe Biden is supposed to have his first press conference. Yeah, so set your clocks. We'll definitely be talking about it tomorrow. We'll see. I bet there won't be any stairs involved in it. They probably be careful with the carpet there, man. But Biden said this increase has been consequential. Okay, what exactly does that mean? So I looked up the word consequential to see what Joe might be doing. I guess he means important or significant. It's important or significant. Okay. It's part of your plan. Think about that. It's part of the plan. I just showed you videos where both Kamala Harris, the new czar of the Biden-Harris administration, and Joe Biden were both for open borders and a welfare policy, principally giving away free medical care. No wonder. Wouldn't you be pouring in from Guatemala? I got a friend of mine, I hadn't told this story in a while, but I got a friend of mine that's into this like all-terrain mountain biking stuff. And this was like a decade ago or more. But he was down in Guatemala riding his bike with a club light. I'll let him remain anonymous. And the MS-13 gang members took over a prison down there. And he was talking to a Guatemalan guy that was part of this organization that was riding the bikes. And the Guatemalan government, because the whole prison was principally MS-13 gang members, and they rioted and took the prison over. Do you know what the Guatemalan government's solution was to that takeover? They didn't negotiate with these people. They didn't even try to send their people into bum Russia. They set the prison on fire. I mean, so these are the people, these divine, what did Pelosi call the MS-13 people? They have a spark of divinity. But the Guatemalan government that knows these people better than anything set the dadgum place on fire and let the rats run out. And that's how they get. And these are people that are coming to our border. Believe me. I'm not saying everybody, don't misunderstand me, but they're coming here as well. They're coming across the border as well. He said, talking about Joe Biden, he said that Harris has agreed to lead our diplomatic effort and work with those nations to accept returning migrants and enhance migration enforcement at the borders. Basically, he's saying we're going to revisit some of Donald Trump's policies. And here's the thing, do you miss the guy yet? I mean, why don't they just call Donald Trump, make him in charge of the border, and, things would go back to, they'd be better for sure overnight. Harris thanked Biden for his confidence. But listen to this. I want you to hear this from Kamala, our new czar of the southern border, and basically co-president by their own admission, right? Listen to what she's saying in this next paragraph, because I don't even know what this means. And I could certainly use some help to interpret it. This is what she said. The work will not be easy, but it is important work. It is work, here's the point. It is work that we demand, and the people of our countries, this is her words, not mine, our countries, I believe, need to help stem the tide that we have seen. Our countries? What the heck is she talking about? Is she talking about the plural, like all the co-presidents or whatever down there? But our countries. What about our country? That's what I'm interested in. I'm not begrudging the people of Guatemala or Honduras. I'm not begrudging them at all. But what about our country? Weren't you elected to be the vice president and now I guess the surge protector? I guess she's going to be a surge protector, I guess. Weren't you elected to help our country? I don't know. Maybe I'm overreading that, but that just is troubling to me. Beyond the short-term challenges, Harris will work to strengthen diplomatic ties with Mexico, El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala to address the root causes of the region's migrant problems, senior administration officials said. What that basically means is they're just going to give them more money. They're going to give them money. Now, think about this, and this even happened during the Trump time as well. We give, like Guatemala, money, but then they to take care of their people, but then they turn around and send the people this way. I mean, so they get the money and we get the people. It's just crazy. But I don't know. It sounds to me like they're trying to do a do-over, that maybe they're rethinking this. The main reason they're rethinking this, if they are in fact rethinking it, is because the American people are actually seeing what's happening at the border. I mean, think about it. It's crazy in a way, but ABC, and we played that clip, I give them credit, and other news sources, mainstream media news sources, liberal news sources, are showing more about what's happening down at the border now than they ever did when Donald Trump was down there, except for the, quote, kids in the Obama cages. And then they used false stories to do that. But talking about Kamala here, she also plans to coordinate with international organizations and private sector entities as part of her efforts, the official says. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a disaster in the making. I explained this the other day, but I'll briefly cover it again. She's talking about non-governmental organizations, which are called NGOs for short. Now, here's the key point in that. If, let's say, a group of migrants cross the border in Texas, and the Biden administration with the Border Patrol and ICE captures them and decides to release them in Florida or North Carolina, If it's straight government to government, the federal government is required by law to tell, like, say, the governor of North Carolina, that we're bringing in 200 migrants to your state. They're required by law to do that. Now, I had a friend of mine report seeing several buses of migrants, it looked like they were, coming into Florida just yesterday. And there's no question that's happening. It goes back to the Obama administration when they bus loaded people all the way from Texas down to the Air Force base down in South Florida. And they've done it before, and I'm sure they're doing it again because this is basically an Obama third term. So, but here's the main point. So to sum it up, if it's government to government transfer, they are required, the federal government is required to notify the state government that they're moving migrants, illegal immigrants, into your state. But if it's a non-government organization, an NGO, and there are dozens of them out there that are doing this, some of them set up just for this, if they get people, and we talked about this yesterday, if they get people, they can transfer them to other facilities around the country with zero notification. Zero. And we had an example yesterday where Catholic Charities, and the Catholic Charities, let me just tell you, I'm not trying to pick them out, I'm just using an example. They do a lot of good work. But in Texas, people who are tested positive, these are people who are illegal immigrants that tested positive for COVID, have been turned over to Catholic Charities. Catholic Charities is then putting them up in hotels that are paid for by you, the taxpayer. But Catholic Charities admitted that they have no power to force these people to quarantine because once they're out of federal custody, they can essentially do anything they want. So this idea, it sounds good on paper. I'm going to read it again. That Kamala Harris, our new czar, says she also plans to coordinate with international organizations and private sector entities as part of her efforts. That means basically that you're not going to see them. Illegal immigrants are going to be flooded all over the United States of America. And what would you bet are places they're going to go? Maybe I'm being too cynical. Maybe I'm being too conspiratorial. But I'll be willing to bet money that they're going to look at states that Donald Trump won, and they're going to pick those states out as places to flood these illegal immigrants through these NGOs without any notification whatsoever. And we're going to talk a story about why they would do that here in just a minute. Back to the story. Billy Bob tells me to get back to the story. If you haven't met my psychic sidekick, this is Billy Bob Bass. He keeps me straight. Yes, I'm a fish whisperer. Make fishing great again. I'm going this weekend for the first time in 3 weeks, Lord willing. But he has a Twitter handle. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. We are determined, ladies and gentlemen, to stay in the public square with all the pressure. That's why I tell you all the time, you guys have got to help us. Please get notifications from Facebook and other entities. Look at our YouTube channel. Look at all the outlets we're on. We're on Rumble and BitChute as well. And invite people, send emails to people, invite people to look at our show because we're under attack. I mean, we had our first YouTube video taken off for some crazy reason the other day. And of course, I've been in and out of Facebook jail a few times. So we need your support. Another place, by the way, now that I'm on it, and I'll get back to the story in a second, that you can see our show on a daily basis is America's Voice News. Now, we're not on there live currently. We may get back on there live again. But America's Voice News is a great alternative to the mainstream media. They have a streaming service on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV. They're also on Channel 219, Dish Network, and the Pluto channel. And you can get free apps on your Android and your iPhone. They're an excellent source of news. But if you go on their streaming service and look under the shows tab, click on that, you will see our show is archived there on a daily basis. All right, back to the story here. At the White House, Biden said that Harris' prior experience as Attorney General of California made her well suited for this new responsibility. What exactly qualifications beyond the sex couch there? I mean, she got her first start with "Where's my Willie Harris, man?" I don't know. What qualifications is he talking about? Because we know that Kamala Harris, the main thing she did when she was the Attorney General of California is lock up pot smokers while she admitted she smoked pot, keep people in prison beyond their normal time so they could keep working, and let pedophiles go that were through the Catholics, the churches there. They had a big pedophile ring in San Francisco that she basically washed her hands with and absolved. So what exactly in all of that qualifies her to be at the border? I don't know. Still, Mr. Biden acknowledged to Harris that I gave you a tough job. So Kamala Harris, we're going to play this video one more time. This is your new border czar. This is who is in charge of the security of the United States of America at our southern border. This gal right here.
Do you have plans to visit the border?
Not today. But I have before, and I'm sure I will again. Yeah.
God help us, ladies and gentlemen. People in charge right now. Cackling Kamala, do you feel, let me just ask you, and we'll move on to our next story. Do you feel better now? I know I do. Not. All right, let's check our time. We got a few minutes left. I want to get into this next story. This is about old Chucky Schumer, man. This is a Breitbart article. Chuck Schumer, and let me, before I get into the title here, let me just tell you, this story right here is by far the most important story. This is bigger than even what's happening at the border, which is huge. Because if this bill, this SB 1 or now Senate Bill 1, basically federalizing our elections, if it passes, and it passes through the House and Senate, and Biden certainly will sign it, if it passes and passes through the Supreme Court, which I'm hoping to God it won't, if this happens, then all bets are off. Then there's not much we can do. People are asking me all the time, what can we do? And I'm going to talk about that in this story. But I'm telling you, stopping this is the most important thing we could possibly do over the next year. This right here. Maybe in the next couple of months. Chuck Schumer, state voting laws, one of the greatest threats we have to modern democracy in America. This is according to Chucky, and that's a pretty good likeness of the guy. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer likened basic election integrity measures embraced by several states, such as voter ID, he compared that to Jim Crow laws, and accused the GOP of attempting to suppress voters. He made the remarks during Wednesday's Senate Rules and Administration Committee hearing on S1, or the For the People Act. Yeah, it's for the people, right to it, which critics warn will strip power from the states and federalize U.S. elections. Critics warn will strip power from states and federalize elections. It's not critics. It's a fact. It's a fact. By their own admission, it will strip power from the states. That's what they want to do. Hillary Clinton herself just this week said that this bill is a once in a lifetime bill. They know how important this is, and it's not because they're trying to expand voting rights. And it ties right into our previous story, because I do believe, and there's plenty of evidence of this, that the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, and they're putting Kamala down there, they're going to spread illegal immigrants into every red state especially. And then they're going to try to, through this bill, allow them to vote. This is part of the plan of the progressive takeover of America. And I'm telling you that my main goal is to stop that. But this bill here is all encompassing, because if it were to pass and actually pass constitutional muster through the Supreme Court, which God help us, I don't say how it will, but I've been wrong before. But if this bill becomes the law of the land, you can forget about, you don't have to worry about freedom of the press. You don't have to worry about your First Amendment right. You sure don't need to have, you won't have to worry about your Second Amendment rights. You'll have nothing to worry about whatsoever. You know why? Because they won't exist. You won't have to worry about our borders because they won't exist. You'll get what Antifa says, which is the armed wing of the progressive movement. Remember, I've played it many times before. No borders, no walls, no USA at all. If this bill passes, and becomes the law of the land, we will have no borders, no walls, no USA at all. This, ladies and gentlemen, is more important than any other thing out there, period. Because it won't matter who runs for president in 2024. Even Donald Trump, it won't matter because this bill will keep them from being president. But that's what they're doing. Speaking to his colleagues, and I know I'm being dramatic, but I can't over dramatize this stuff. Speaking to his colleagues, talking about Chuck Schumer, during the hearing, Schumer blasted Republican state legislatures, such as Georgia's, for pursuing basic election integrity measures, calling it infuriating and accusing Republicans of being afraid of democracy and trying to prevent people from voting. I'm going to play you a video that's a couple years old. This is Stacey Abrams, who basically gave the state of Georgia, and the Republicans went along with her, to Joe Biden in 2020. Stacey Abrams tells you in this and I tell you all the time, listen to these progressives, take them at their word. When she was running for governor of Georgia, she told you what the blue wave would be about. She told you the people that she wanted to build a coalition. And listen to her words carefully, and you will see that what's happening at our southern border, this bill that they're trying to push through here, they're all connected. Check it out.
The blue wave is African American. Yeah! It's white, it's Latino, it's Asian Pacific Islander. Yes! It is disabled. Yes! It is differently abled. Yes! It is LGBTQ. Yes! It is law enforcement. Yes! It is veterans. Yes! It is made up of those who've been told that they are not worthy of being here. Yes! It is comprised of those who are documented and undocumented. Yes!
Did you catch that last part? She is literally telling you that the blue wave is compiled with people, and at the end there, she talks about undocumented. That, ladies and gentlemen, are illegal immigrants, people who came here illegally and are now being bussed all over the United States. This is all part of the plan. And this legislation right here is to federalize the election. Keep in mind that in places like Maryland and San Francisco, illegal immigrants have been given the right to vote on certain issues like school board already. It's not much of a change to allow them to vote, because this bill, for instance, has same-day registration. You can just walk into any precinct anywhere if this bill passes, say, I am wanting to register to vote, show no proof of who you are whatsoever, and your vote will be counted right then on the spot. And that's just one provision. Some of these voter suppression laws, back to the article, in Georgia and other Republican states, it's amazing, ladies and gentlemen, that anything that has to do with voter integrity is part of voter suppression law. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that no European nation, let's use Europe, because it's always, even the most liberal over there, have mail-in voting like we do. France actually tried it, one of the most liberal places on the planet, and did away with mail-in voting because they realized it was totally corrupt. And so they're wanting us to do what no other country in the world does. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. We actually have troops in the past in places like Serbia with election integrity. So election integrity is vitally important. I mean, what do? Dye people's thumbs like purple over in Iran and Iraq. Voting is important, but apparently not here. Not voter integrity. Some of the vote suppression laws in Georgia and other Republican states smack of Jim Crow rearing its ugly head. This is what Schumer was saying. Once again, it is 160 years since the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments abolished slavery, and Jim Crow still seems to be with us. This is what Mr. Schumer said. But let me just tell you, all of that, what he's telling you, the voting to abolish slavery, the Jim Crow laws, basic civil rights in this country, the right for African Americans to vote, was all done by Republicans, not Democrats. The Democrats are the party of slavery. You know, we talk about our Second Amendment rights here on a daily basis, pretty much, certainly weekly basis. Well, let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the NRA, for all of its issues, faults, whatever. A lot of people don't know this. The NRA, one of the primary reasons the NRA was started in the first place, right after the Civil War, was to guarantee or to help guarantee that former slaves that were now American citizens could get their Second Amendment right. But you never hear that. Let me say that again. The NRA, one of the primary reasons it was founded, you can search this out yourself. You don't have to take my word for it, but you could. They were founded in part to protect and ensure the God-given inalienable rights to former slaves, African Americans, after the Civil War, so that they could get their Second Amendment rights. But where do you ever hear that except for places like us? That's why we need your support. Support our sponsors. Schumer declared the laws, their various cousins, and we're talking about the laws being passed in various states right now. The laws, their various cousins in Republican state legislatures across the country are one of the greatest threats we have to modern democracy in America. So he's saying that the state's ability to change the election laws, which is by, guess what? The Constitution. It's funny how the Constitution just keeps getting in the way of these progressives, right? They talk about defending it when they violate it on a daily basis. The Constitution is being set on fire by these people because the Constitution is the document that says that the voting, the setting up of elections is by the state legislatures, not the U.S. Congress, not governors of states, not secretaries of states, not Supreme Courts of states, but the legislature, which is the whole thing for like the big Texas case and the voter mod. We don't say the F word here on this show, but there was a lot of mod that happened in the election. And basically every vote that was cast by a change in the election law outside of changes made by the state legislature was unconstitutional. Now, I'm not saying where they went and everything else, but the Constitution is a problem. Listen to this next paragraph. Chuck Schumer said, and I got to use something that you never hear about Biden or the Democrats anymore. You heard it. Donald Trump could say that the sun was coming up tomorrow, and they'd go, without evidence. But Chuck Schumer said, without evidence, I would remind you, he said, just leave it to the states to discriminate against African Americans, Latinos, Native Americans, younger Americans in college. It is shameful our Republican colleagues are proposing these ideas in 2020. Basically, and there's differences in all these different states, slight differences, but essentially what the states are doing in the ones he's questioning here, they're trying to shore up, for instance, they're trying to return, instead of just a blanket all mail out balloting, to basically excuse you need a reason for voting absentee and you need some verification process. They're actually saying that they want people to identify themselves at the polls. And keep in mind, we did a story on this yesterday, that Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, a big majority of them have no issue with voter ID. In fact, they want it. But this suppression is essentially saying that you can just mail out ballots to everyone. Now, no government really does that. We're the only ones doing that. And so these state legislatures are trying to shore that up. They're also talking about the early voting. And basically early voting is going to happen no matter what. That ship has sailed. But they're talking about restricting it maybe to like a week or 2 weeks instead of like 2 months. And they want you to have voter ID, which the majority of Americans support. He said, Schumer, let me check my time. Okay, we're pretty much out of time. Let me just tell you, and I'll shut up. We cannot allow this to become the law of the land, or everything is over. So put all of your efforts, if you want to put political efforts, into making sure this doesn't happen. Hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. Let's all pray for this great country. She needs it and deserves it now more than ever. But like I say each and every day, from my home, my house, my family to yours, have a blessed day.